Hi, all. Let's get started. I'm here with Lisa Delpy Neirotti. She's the director of the MS in Sports Management program and associate professor of sports management at George Washington University School of Business. And she's been recognized the top 25 innovators and influencers in sport. I've known her for, oh my God, a long time. Um, but it's a pleasure to have her here to have her tell her Pivot and Thrive story. And with that, Lisa, I'll ask you to tell us about the challenge in college sports today.
Well, as you may have all heard, the recent House versus NCAA settlement has changed the landscape in collegiate athletics from one of amateurism to commercialization, and it's forcing universities to adapt.
And are they adapting well?
Well, the biggest pivot that these universities are having to do is to hire general managers like professional sports teams. And these GMs are working directly with the coach on the recruiting and then determining the value of these athletes. And then on top of, they've got the value, now they've got to figure out like capology in football terms, where, how much they can afford to pay each player to stay under either the university limit or the $20 million cap that is the max a university can pay all players.
Wow, that's a long way from the sort of collegiate sports in the 1880s, right?
Yep, 1852 is the first collegiate athletics event, and they paid university athletics have played such an important role within the university that this change is drastic. It's the Wild West. Everybody's trying to figure it out.
Is it part of just the economics of higher ed right now? That plays a large role in this?
Well, there's some universities that are making millions on athletics, but the majority are not. So there's only a few, that are really able to get that $20 million max, but everybody else is aspiring to that, right? Because if you want to play with the big boys, you're going to have to spend the $20 million. But how are they going to get that money? It's the public, the way it makes it sound is like all university athletic departments are running this huge profit center, but that's not true. The football and basketball teams may be running a profit center, but to support the other 10 to 20 university sports that they serve, swimming, basketball, volleyball, that profit is taken by those other sports.
Is the GM kind of the new athletic director or reports to the athletic director? What's the organization like?
The GM works closely with the coaches and ultimately the athletic director, but they evaluate the talent and then look and compare, okay, if this quarterback's getting 4 million, how does their stats stack up against our quarterback that we're recruiting? And then put it into perspective whether your university can afford to pay $4 million for one athlete, plus the amount they have to pay other athletes on the team,
It's
and
a,
as well as other teams. So this could be football, but then you've got basketball and other sports. I mean, this calls into question Title IX and how much are you going to give to women's female athletes compared to what you're paying to the males.
it's an amazing intersection of higher ed, legislation, sports marketing, even media rights, and kind of data analytics, right? Because now big sports are about data science.
Right. Well, this goes down, the GM is using data, right? And so they are, trying to gather as much information as possible as how much is this one being, paid. In the NFL, the NFL Players Association requires all contracts to come into them. So they know exactly. But in collegiate athletics, that's not required. So it's really like how upmanship, right? Well, I think, I heard this person's getting 4 million, I better pay 4.1. But, again, be careful because there is that cap and there is also the limits that your own university, not all universities are making a profit on collegiate athletics and have that much revenue coming in. So what happens if you overspend? And
Yeah.
who's going to pick that up?
I've got two questions. My first one is, will this continue? Kind of the plates up in the air conversations about conferences, like what conference you need to be in to be successful, and
Yeah.
how's that going to play out?
Well, winning conferences make more money, right? So every school is going to be wanting to be in a winning conference because they're going to get more TV rights, more sponsorships, etc. So yeah, everybody's vying to see where they're going to land in which conference, and that will behoove them most.
So, in your opinion, you've been around the block, the Olympic movement, you've been at World Cup, you name it, you've seen it all, right? And you probably have students in every one of these places. So, how does this play out? What's the Thrive scenario in this?
It's really the extent that the university, pivots and understands this new world that we're living in, and how much money can they raise on top of what their conference may give them. How much is their support of the donor base, and to what extent they can really compete to get the best players.
Fascinating. It's a brave new world, Lisa.
And it's, my hope is that it doesn't destroy college sports, because how many universities, how many donors can continue to give year over year, especially as we've seen in professional sports, how the salaries just keep increasing. So time will tell. And my hope is that, it levels out. Collegiate athletics will still have the focus on academics as well as on sports.
Is there a world where there's a split where academics and sports no longer cohabitate in a university setting?
Well, I foresee, and it's already happening, that universities are starting LLCs, and they can spin off those LLCs to private investors. And for example, it could be a licensing deal. So they bring on a private investor who agrees to pay for all the salaries and coaching and training um, in exchange for the use of the marks. And so let's just say they pay $200 million a year. The university could use that $200 million to pay for all the other sports that are not commercialized, and that the private entity could do football and basketball or any revenue sports.
That's really interesting.
you know,
Wow.
Time will tell, but University of Kentucky has already created their LLC. So it's moving, and it will only be time.
Well, we'll need to bring you back then to find out kind of how it plays out, whether the Thrive story works out or it's a completely different story because it's hard to keep up with.
Right. Would love to. And yes, nobody has a globe, but
Crystal ball,
crystal
crystal
ball.
ball.
That's I don't have the crystal ball, but I have seen this trend, and I see it coming already in Latin America. Universities have teams, and they're named after companies. And even
Wow, I
though
did
it's
not know that.
called the, George Washington Coca-Cola team, it's really run by an outside entity.
Wow. We'll have to look into a Captivate team perhaps. Okay.
There
Keep that
you
in
go. If
mind.
you got the big bucks, you can own a team.
Thanks, Lisa. Thanks so much. Great insight, great pivot and thrive story, and one that we're going to keep watching.
Yep. And as those universities that pivot and thrive will do well.
Great.